A lot of discussion on the internet about cutting the ball. What does that mean to you?
Well, I hit a ball the other day in a tournament we were playing in. Sonny Johnson came up to me afterwards. Man, how'd you learn to cut a ball like that? I didn't know I was cutting a ball. I didn't really understand it. I hit a line shot that went all the way to the fence. I went on the internet and I saw it. Guys doing it and said, hey, it said something about cutting the ball. And I got from watching that is that the guys today say cut the ball so you keep it in the yard, you don't hit a home run. But even those guys were spinning it out. But I called Mike Masenko, I called Wally, Bob Waldyke, and asked them, and they had a definition, but it was different than what I thought. And then I talked to Gary here, who's good at explaining, and he's a lot younger. So Gary, where do you stand on that?
Well, first of all, you get a lot of questions on cutting the ball. What is it? It's a lot of people sit there and use the term spin. I spin the ball, or I spun that out of here. That's exactly what you're doing and everything. So let's talk about what cutting means. If you sit there, most people, when they're taught from a young age, aim for the center of the ball. Well, when you cut the ball, you're aiming for just below center or either just over center. And depending on whether you get underneath or over the top, is going to depend on what the result's going to happen. If I catch top and I spin it, I'm going to create that ball where it's spinning like this. And it's going to go over the infield and die, and that's what a lot of your pro players, they'll use to sit there and keep in the yard, just like Ed was saying. But if I sit there and spin it the other way and I spin it just underneath the bottom half, and now that ball goes like this, that ball's going a long ways if you elevate, and it'll shoot right through the wind. So it depends on what your goal is with cutting the ball. The one thing that I'll sit there and say is that if you're going to try to cut the ball, and you've never done it before, start with tee work and just sit there and start training your body to sit there and look for it just off center, just below or just above, depending on what your goal is. Now, one of the added benefits of cutting the ball that a lot of people don't get is that we always talk about keeping your eye on the ball. Well, if you're going to cut the ball, you are uber focused on your spot that you're trying to hit. You like that word?
Yeah.
So it's like you're really focused on watching the ball and you're keeping your eye on it. And if you miss hit it in the center, okay, so what? You still hit the ball hard. So that's one of the added benefits to cutting the ball. And when you first start, don't be surprised if you take 60 swings and only 6 of them are worth the shit and the rest are bad. So next time you come out, hopefully it'll be 7 or 8 and then 9 or 10 and get better and better as we go. Because your opportunity to sit there and make a mistake when you try to cut the ball is about 1/8 of an inch. So if I aim for this spot just below center and I catch down here, you're probably popping up to the pitcher. That's the downside to cutting a ball.
So we use the ball. It's like passing the monkey. Hey, so in my day, we called that spinning the ball. People used to tell me, Ed, you spin the ball good because I hit it. I'm not all that big a guy, and I'd spin the ball right, and it would spin out. But I think the primary thing, or the primary point that we should get to, is that in softball, the nomenclatures that people put on it, and some of them are generational.
Yeah.
Because we call it something different than they call it now. So yeah, there's got to be, basically then we're agreeing that cutting the ball is spinning it.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's pretty much what it is. What's your take on that?
What's the most important thing when you're cutting the ball or spinning it? Eye on the ball?
The most important thing? Hit them where they ain't, man. What's more important, hitting them where they ain't? I don't care if you cut it, spin it, but the big boys, they have. Look, some of those guys on the internet hitting that ball, they're huge, dude. Look how far you. Well, both of you guys aren't what I call mammoth people now. He's well built, and you got a great body, but and you hit the ball a long way. Think about what these guys that are 6'2", 6'3", 250 are hitting the ball. When you start getting, there's not a lot of those big guys running around at my age, 77. I'm like one of the big guys. Now, I do believe generations coming behind us are all huge. They're all huge. And what do you think about that?
To me, it's like the most important thing is contact point. Where your contact point is. A lot of people want to sit there and talk about creating a cut swing, and everybody's different. Our biomechanics react differently. So what swing is going to work best for you? Hitting a precise point as far as just below center or above center is going to be something you're going to have to work out with a tee. A lot of people talk about a tomahawk chop and everything, where I'm kind of like
that's what I saw yesterday, that tomahawk chop.
Coming down and cutting it and everything. But you can swing level and still cut the ball. But it's your contact point. Where are you making contact with this ball? Am I hitting if they're center, just below center to create that backspin, or am I just hitting above center to create that top spin? And contact is most important, because if you miss, like I said, your opportunity to make a mistake is about 1/8 of an inch. You miss too big, it's either going to be a weak grounder or it's going to be a pop up to the pitcher, and that's just the things that come with it, and that's where you got to put in the work.
Either way, you got to watch the bat hit the ball. And just today, I was, I think when I'm hitting real good, I don't know if it's for you, that ball is suspended in air,
Yep.
and I'm, drilling it. I mean, and man, do you drill? Both of you guys hit it. What about you, Dan? I mean, is that ball like suspended in air, and you're just taking that good swing?
Yeah, and the last couple hitting rounds for me, it's been I'm going too early. It seems like, oh, it's perfect pitch, and then I don't
Here's the
strike
thing
it
about
well.
hitting too. In the last rounds, I'm sure you guys know this, but me, I try to make my last round the best round, because I believe that your muscles are tired at that point, and when your muscles are tired, then it commits it to memory. Do you agree with all that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you one thing, a story. When I was playing in a 40 and over world, I watched the ball so closely that the ball was coming in, and the ball had a thread that was loose. And it went back to and I turned around to the umpire. I said, "Mr. Ump, that ball's no good. It's got a thread loose." He said, "Ain't no way you saw that." I said, "Well, get the ball." He got the ball, and the thread was loose. That's how you got to watch the ball.
If you can focus like that, that's great.
Oh hell, the video's over.
Video's over.
But go ahead.
So I'm not watching the ball very well, obviously,
Why is that?
because I dropped it.
Oh, a little humor. Hey, that's a little tidbit for y'all.
But no, seriously, if anybody can use this, and it'll help them, but it's going to take a lot of swings and a lot of work. And what I would recommend, don't try to sit there and learn to cut the ball off of live pitching, because the first thing you want to do, go back to when you were young, you want to create a good habit. You want to get good swing habits. So it's like, if I'm just starting to cut the ball, use a tee. I know a lot of folks don't like a tee, but you know what? When you're talking about changing mechanics, and that's what we're talking about here, contact points.
Oh, almost got it.
Yeah, contact points, use a tee and everything, and then you can all you can do is focus on one thing, hitting bottom half ball or top half.
And the biggest question of all, okay, how do you do that without watching the ball? So you definitely, if you're hitting like that, you got to watch the ball.
You got to keep your eyes on
You
the
gotta
ball.
watch the ball.
Absolutely, you have to watch the
Okay,
ball.
man. Hey, hit subscribe, man. We need. I'm over 300 subscribers. Huh? What do you think, Dano? Me and Dano's a partner of mine now. One of these days, he'll be a guest lecturer, Gary. Hey, Gary, second chance.
Oh,
There we go.
Close.